Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show and welcome to 2022. We made it another year. Let's not get too excited, though, because we have no idea what's in store for us. So I'm very happy today to have Rebecca Klingenschmitt, who is a doctor of physical therapy and a board certified specialist in orthopedic physical therapy. Rebecca founded Active Solutions Rehab and Wellness in January of 2021. After years of working in traditional outpatient, which we're going to get into because I know what that's like as a former director of operations for New York Medical. We had a very large PT side that dealt with massage therapy, PT. We had orthopedics, and it can be a little bit fast, shall we say, and not always so patient-centered. So it's really exciting to have Rebecca here today, so we can learn more about how to, work with a PT that is really focused on patient care. So Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yay. So Rebecca is a newbie to Tampa Bay, which I'm so happy about. Moved here from South Carolina with her husband and her boxer, which hopefully will show up in the episode at some point. But Rebecca, why don't you give the audience a little background of why you even decided to become a doctor of physical therapy?
Okay. So there was no specific defining moment that led me to physical therapy, but when I was 7, I cut the tendon to my big toe with glass, and I got to watch my own surgery. I got to watch them repair it in the emergency room. And so that was the start of my love for or interest in the medical field. So I, as a 7-year-old, I was like, oh, I want to be a surgeon. But over the years, I decided that's not really the route that I want to go. And I had to do physical therapy at the time. So that was my first introduction, but I don't remember thinking this is what I want to do. But somehow over the years, I transitioned to thinking that's more of what I wanted to do. And a lot of my friends played soccer in high school, and they all got injured. So I'd go to their physical therapy appointments and really enjoyed the process. So I feel like I've almost always wanted to be a physical therapist, but I don't really know when specifically that the light bulb went off that that's what I want to do. But then as I learned more about it, I did shadowing and stuff like that before I went or applied to PT school to help me get in. And I learned a lot more about it and like other things we can treat. For example, dizziness. I had no idea. Most people probably have no idea either that physical therapists can treat dizziness. But yeah, beyond just the post-surgical treatments, like we treat people with chronic pain, acute injuries, dizziness. Obviously there's the whole neurological side too, like after strokes and spinal cord injury, things like that. But we treat a whole array of things. So I found that really interesting as I shadowed and observed, and then I got into PT school. So the rest is history.
I love it. Well, I am a huge fan of vestibular rehabilitation. The practice that I was in New York, after it went through some changes, let's just call it, with corporate, we switched to a balance center, and we had a posturography machine, and we were just focused on vestibular rehab. And I was just sharing this, and as much as I can, I talk about how rewarding it was to run an organization that really saved people. Because when somebody comes in and they have vertigo and they're dizzy and they feel like they've been on a ship, and they can actually get treatment to get better, and it's just a matter of how the physical therapist is working with the patient, it's quite miraculous. And here in Florida was where they had opened the first balance center, actually right here in Pinellas County. And and it's not there anymore. But I know that there's, that kind of rehab out there, but I don't think a lot of people associate physical therapy and dizziness. And my goodness, like vertigo is so big. My mom suffers from it herself too. So that's wonderful. So tell me, so I know that you used to work, in let's just call it a corporate setting, a big medical practice. And from where I was back in the day, and I've said it many times on the show, and I'm not proud of it, but we had a very treat 'em and street 'em mentality. Okay. That's just the truth. There were so many patients coming in, they needed so much help. And the list of patients on the schedule, we were always like snapping our fingers, like, okay, let's go, which did not allow, well, first of all, was not good patient care at all.
Right.
But it also was very frustrating for our physical therapists because, as you know, and which I want you to share with everybody, it certainly takes time to work with a patient to know what their issues are and then to start the process of healing. So can you talk me through a little bit of why you decided yourself to break out and open your own space?
Yeah. So so everyone, I feel like gets into the medical field in general, probably, or the majority of people, to help people and to build relationships. And that was something that drew me to becoming a physical therapist. And so when I first got out of PT school, so I call the corporate PT setting PT mills, because that's kind of what it feels like as a practitioner, and I'm sure as a patient sometimes too. But I got out, I started working for a corporate PT company, and it was just like that, where you just have patient after patient after patient. You'd be seeing 2, maybe 3 patients an hour. And they'd have what's called a PT tech to help you with managing some of that. But I didn't feel comfortable with it. We might have a great PT tech, but still they're not trained as a physical therapist. And so while they can be helpful and useful, and when we're dictating what to do, I just felt like I wasn't able to create the relationships that I want. It was more about, okay, spend 15 minutes with this person, spend 15 minutes with this person, spend 15 minutes with this person. And at the same time, staying up on all the notes that are required. And
I know.
And thinking about the next hour of patients and what you're going to do with them. And it became very frustrating very quickly. So I'd say within the first year of practice, I was feeling burnt out. And when you spend 7 years of your life working towards something, and you feel burnt out after the first year, it's pretty disheartening.
Yeah.
So I decided to change jobs. I thought, well, maybe I'm just in the wrong job. And so I switched positions to another company, also a corporate company. So it ended up being more of the same, just slight differences in how they ran their business. But like they would have you in the middle, you'd be doing an evaluation on someone and also be wrapping someone else up at the same time. So I'd be trying to evaluate someone, but also have to pay attention to make sure my other patient is doing stuff correctly. And I just felt so wrong about doing that. So really uncomfortable. And I ended up.
I want to jump in just a second, because I want to give people an understanding, because really the goal of the show is, we talk about the business of medicine here, but really it's to help patients get educated about where they choose to have their healthcare. And I don't think people really understand. They might look and go, oh, Rebecca, my PT, she's just always like, oh, fast, and passing me off to this tech. But the truth is, it's all run by the administration.
Yeah.
So if you are not reaching this milestone, this ridiculous, whatever concoction they come up with of how much time you have to see patients, you will get reprimanded, right? So there'll be some backlash about it. So it's never, when it is a very large, mill, as we like to refer, because there are many mills. If you walk into a space and you just see people rolling all around, know that it's all based on time. It's all based on time.
And I feel bad because that tends to be the perception with people of what physical therapy is, and which I hate, because physical therapy can be such a beneficial thing for people.
So
but
good.
when you're in that kind of setting, it may not be helpful. And it's not because physical therapy isn't helpful. It's just because of the constraints of doing the physical therapy. And it's not always a clinician's fault either, because like you said, it's the higher up people that are making these roles of how many people a day you're going to see, whether you get a tech or not to help you, or any other personnel. And
I like how you said that, Rebecca, because sometimes the front office person will be thrown in to help. I'm not saying that's what happened in your situation, but I see it all the time. And they're after you've done 7 years of your life training to become a doctor of physical therapy, and then somebody is shown that works there. I could be a medical assistant that has absolutely no training on how to be a physical therapy thrown into the mix. It's outrageous, disgraceful.
Yeah. And it was so frustrating to me. And I again felt burnt out. I ended up while I was with that company, I was considering leaving, but I had the opportunity to do a residency with MUSC, with the Medical University of South Carolina. So I ended up sticking with the company to complete this residency with with MUSC, an orthopedic physical therapy residency. And but after I finished that, I was like, I just can't take this any longer. I know that the corporate PT world is not where I belong. Right. So my husband and I had been thinking about moving to Tampa. So I didn't want to start my own thing yet in Charleston, because I didn't want to start it and then have to pick up and leave and try to start it all over again. So I found a locally owned company, and they were better, still insurance based. So still the lots of the constraints of I didn't have to see as many people per hour, but I would still see 1 to 2 patients an hour. So, which if you talk to most physical therapists, they would be like, wow, you were able to see one person an hour. That's fantastic. Right. That's unheard of. So I felt fortunate to have found them and be able to see 1 to 2 patients an hour. But then I learned, I had already known this, but it became more highlighted once I got out of the corporate setting. Now dealing with insurance in particular, they have lots of rules, as I'm sure most people know. And so like, for example, I would get a patient who just had a rotator cuff repair, and their insurance company they authorize this rotator cuff repair, but they only give them 8 visits of therapy afterwards. And for someone after a rotator cuff repair, that's nowhere near enough, especially if you want to, let's say that they are really active, you're going to want to be seeing them more than 8 visits down the road. So I became very frustrated by that. And another example would be, I had a patient who she had been dealing with basically sciatic like pain for, I think by the time she saw me, about 3 or 4 months. And again, they only authorized like 8, I can't remember exact number, but maybe 8 visits or so. And her case was a little tricky. And by the 8th visit, she was probably 75% better. So we just needed like 1 or 2 more visits just to clear up that last 25%, and insurance wouldn't authorize it. And so she ended up actually paying out of pocket, because obviously she was bought in. She believed in the plan of care. She had seen a lot of progress. And so, just 2 more visits later, she was fine. So I just became very frustrated by dealing with all the restrictions based on the insurance. And so that led me to decide so the corporate and the insurance
was the catalyst to you going out on your own.
Yes.
So now you've opened Active Solution Rehab and Wellness, and I love that, it states in your bio and all the notes where everybody can find you will be listed under the show, but that you're more personalized and holistic care than what is often experienced in traditional healthcare, a movement optimist and sees the body as resilient and adaptable. So I looked at some of which I highly recommend. You look at Rebecca's Instagram page and you can see some of the reels that she's done just about really mindset, positivity, body positivity. It's so important, instead of, you said a few things that I really like instead of saying like you have a bad back, you spin it and you say something positive. And I think that it really does go hand in hand. So tell us a little bit about your new practice that you have here in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, so my practice, I am doing a hybrid of mobile physical therapy and I have an on-site location on Fridays where I can see you in a clinic. I'm out of network, but my focus is to treat the whole person. So, and I know a lot of people say that, but so what I mean by that is you come in with a problem, I evaluate you to really try to figure out what's causing the problem, but then we look at everything else surrounding that. So I'll give you an example from recently. I have a person that I had been working with, and before she came to see me, she'd tried several other treatments that were more passive in nature, wasn't really getting the results that she wanted. And she ended up finding me and we started working together. She is a runner and she had not been able to run for several months before she came to see me. And so I figured out what her issue was and we came up with a whole workout routine for her. So I gave her exercises to address the actual tissue problem. But she's a runner. She's used to doing all kinds of other exercises. So I created an entire workout plan for her where she could be doing something almost every day of the week that made her, even though we weren't working on, like, for example, so this workout plan was addressing upper and lower body issues. So, or not even issues, but just upper and lower body strength plan. So I wasn't working on her upper body, but it gave her something to do that felt like she was making progress towards her goals. And ultimately that it would still help with her in the long run with her running. But in my previous jobs, I would never have been able to do something like that. And so I'm just so excited to be able to do physical therapy this way and be able to treat the whole person, give them a whole workout plan to help them get back to their goals. So
yeah, because everybody's different, everybody's unique, and really everybody deserves the time spent to figure out and isolate what the issue really is so you could develop a plan of care that's going to be beneficial. So kudos to you, because it's not an easy thing to step out and start your own business. I mean, most of the people that I work with that's what we call it. It's like we're being locked into corporate and we break out and we're like, we're going to do something different. And a lot of doctors that I work with, a lot of healers, what I prefer to refer to all of you as, have done that. And it's really, it's a risk. I mean, it's very financially much easier to just go and work at these corporate places. But if you really have a passion and a desire to help the patient, you actually have to do these things. And I think now more than ever, living through this pandemic, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that everybody pays more attention to their body and their immune system, because if we have no health, we have actually nothing. And what better time to seek out, somebody to help with performance, because I know, physical therapy, massage therapy, it all goes so well together. And if there's an injury, there's so many ways to heal the body, but you need a professional to guide you through. And of course, I'm thinking about people I want to introduce you to that, especially in the orthopedic world, that have broken out of corporate and kind of do things their own, because we just need to get the word out for sure. That's what and you coming from South Carolina, we need to get you integrated to Tampa Bay, surrounded by champions here, right?
Yep.
So I'm really excited that you have this practice. I highly recommend everybody seek it out. If physical therapy, I mean, my goodness, I'm literally picturing all of the therapists that I used to work with in New York, and they'd be crying to me like, Sharon, we cannot physically or mentally do this job.
Yeah.
It mostly because it's not helping the patient. And we know this.
Yeah.
So people have to get more educated about their healthcare. And that sometimes means like, maybe you're going to have to stop spending so much money on Starbucks and put that money towards something that can actually get you better.
Yeah. And sometimes even the out of network isn't as expensive as people think it sounds expensive, or you might hear the terms concierge thrown out there. And it sounds expensive, but a lot of people have really high deductibles now. And so really they might go to an in-network physical therapy practice, but they're responsible for the entire bill, which you don't get until months later. And you're surprised by this. Whereas we are upfront on our pricing, and can sometimes, especially if you do have a high deductible, can be more cost effective actually. And you're spending a lot more time with one-on-one with the physical therapist and development of your plan of care.
Absolutely. And I share this a lot because I don't want people to think that I don't practice what I preach myself. My husband is a UPS man. We have the best insurance plan in the world. I don't think there's anything better. And I go for therapy for my brain, and I pay out of my pocket for this therapist because I only want the best when it comes to my mental and my physical health. So if you want the best, if you've been trying to get better, you're going to physical therapy and it's not working, it might not be that it's not working. It's that the actual plan of care that is pushed in corporate does not suit the needs of your body to heal. So educate yourself, everybody, and educate yourself about Rebecca. We're so excited that you're here in Tampa Bay. Thank you so much. Follow her on Instagram. You'll find some really great stuff. I did today, and I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So don't forget, if you mention that you've seen the show or listened to it on the podcast, mention Thai Technology and you will get 3 months for free. They're the best.